Hollis School Board into session. And our first item of business is a non-public session. So I am looking for a motion to enter non-public.
So moved. Do you need me to read it?
I do.
All right.
I've got it here.
Perfect.
I move that the board by roll call go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-8:3, Roman numeral 2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee. And C, to discuss a matter which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of a person other than a member of the body or agency itself.
Second.
Okay. I need a roll call vote. Tammy?
Tammy, I.
Rob, aye.
Brooke, aye.
Carol, I.
Amy, aye. Okay, 500. We are in non-public at 6:03.
Across the hall?
session.
2 seconds, Logan, are we?
Okay, agenda adjustments.
Madam Chair, I'd like to put forward an agenda adjustment.
Sure.
Could be at the end of our discussion, just an added item. I'd like to just address the board, providing an update on the superintendent, or the committee, if you will, for the superintendent's contract negotiations.
Should we take that up after the committee appointments, perhaps?
Wherever you think. Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine by me.
Let's do that. Okay, it's added. Thank you, Rob.
Sure.
Okay, correspondence, resignations, and nominations.
I have one nomination. I'd like to move forward Kyle Precourt for the position of Kyle Precourt for the position of physical education at Hollis Primary School. He comes to us with a bachelor's in physical education from Keene. And we are recommending placing him at bachelor's plus 15, step 9, for a salary of $60,436.
60,436?
Correct. Yes.
May I have a motion?
Superintendent's nomination for the position of Kyle Freeport for the position of physical education teacher at Hollis Primary School at a BA plus 15, step 9, at a salary of $60,436.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? 500 passes. Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Okay.
You have a handful?
Yep.
I'll use the microphone. So I move to, hold on 2 seconds, please. Accept the minutes of the Hollis School Board non-public session from March 9, 2022 as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. 500, great.
I move to accept the minutes of the Hollis School Board meeting of April 6, 2022, with the following amendments. Page 7, line 20, insert specifications following class size. And page 9, line 3, correct the spelling of some, S-O-M-E.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 500, thank you.
And I move to accept the minutes of the Hollis School Board non-public meeting, April 6, 2022, as presented.
Second.
500. Thank you, Tammy. 6:40, public input. We are a little bit behind schedule, and I apologize for that, but if there are members of the public that are interested in addressing us, they may come to the podium and do so now.
Are there any members of the public that would like to address us this evening?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, just checking, thank you. Thank you, Carol. I got you. Okay. Principals report.
Okay. All right, so we have a lot of things coming up. We are next week, celebrating Staff Appreciation Week. This week we started SAS testing for third graders, and next week we're doing SAS testing for grades 4, 5, and 6 all at the same time. We have coming up our 6th grade DARE promotion ceremony on May 19th. That's always a very exciting time for our 6th graders. And our math placement test is coming up in May as well. We have our 4th grade information night on May 25th for all of our rising 4th graders. And a couple other things. Some items to note from buildings and grounds. We're still looking for a part-time custodian so that we could be fully staffed at Hughes. So apply, please. We are having students participate in cleaning up the outside area as part of our Earth Day focus. And we are really focusing on lining up all of our very many summer projects. At HPS, they're also focusing on building projects and looking at end-of-year procedures. All right, moving into our social emotional corner.
By the way, just a side note, all the flowers that the kids planted last year look amazing.
Yes, they do. I love to see that.
It's a perfect sign of spring for us.
Absolutely. All right, so social emotional corner at Hughes, we have a pencil awareness campaign asking peers to treat pencils better and not break them, so that we can gather some donations of pencils and making sure that we keep them in good order. All right, we also have our sixth graders working on gathering sneakers and working with ghost sneakers. So we have 5 bags already, and we've saved 68 pails of sneakers from landfills, displaced 2,040 pounds of carbon dioxide, and saved 153,476 gallons of water. And that's just from the first 5 bags, so huge impact. At HPS, our students are participating in the collecting pairs of shoes for Troop 465 to help underprivileged countries. So far we've collected over 200 shoes, so great job. Our students are participating in STEM Week and have engaged in problem-solving activities all around the building. And this month in all of our buildings, not just at HPS, but we've been participating in Traffic Safety Month. So for those parents who've been dropping off, you've seen our helpful information, reminders about traffic safety, so that's been fun. In addition, we had Mrs. Cornell Smith's class host the all-school town meeting. And let's see. We are actively still looking for a guidance counselor to fill the last few months of school here at Hughes. What's exciting about Earth Day at Hughes is they watched the Lorax, picked up trash, cleaned up the outside of Hughes, and celebrated with this joke. What do you call a sleeping dinosaur? Or. And then Officer Cush arranged for the K-9 unit from Milford to come out and host grade level assemblies for our students this month, which was great fun, not just to have the K-9 unit, but also to go back to grade level assemblies. We went away from those for a while, and it was great to be together and to understand how to behave when we're together in a large group setting.
And they loved Mako, the dog.
Our enrollment has been pretty stable. We just have 1 addition in pre-K 3.
Any discussion on the principal's report? And do we have a sense of what our kindergarten enrollment numbers are looking like for the fall?
Good question.
So I don't have a number, but I don't have a concern in either direction.
Okay.
So it's been brought up in Brookline as something to concern ourselves with, and Paula hasn't mentioned. So I
Okay.
can get back to you on that
Sure.
specifically, but we don't have a reason to be alarmed that we need an extra section at the last minute
Okay.
or that we don't have enough students.
Good. Okay. Moving on to our discussion. Okay. Committee appointments. Give me one moment. Okay. In accordance with Hollis School Board policies, BBAA, School Board Member Authority, BDE, Committees and Delegates, and BDF, Advisory Committees to the Board, I am submitting the following appointments for board consideration and approval. Brooke Arthur, Hollis School Board Representative to Hollis School District Policy Committee and the Regional Services Educational Center. Tammy Fareed, Hollis School Board Representative to the Hollis Capital Advancement Plan Committee. Rob Mann, Hollis School Board Representative to the Superintendent Contract Renegotiation Committee. Carol Roy, Hollis School Board Representative to SAU 41 Governing Board Budget Subcommittee, SAU 41 Governing Board Policy Committee, and the alternate to Hollis Budget Committee. And Amy Kellner, Hollis School Board Representative to Hollis Budget Committee. Okay, all right. Moving on to our added agenda item, Mr. Mann, the update on the Superintendent Contract Committee.
Yeah, I just wanted to update the board that the committee looking at the superintendent's contract is underway. We had our first meeting with our attorney to discuss mostly just the framework of how we want to approach it, the negotiations, and we talked to some high-level things, but we are active and plan to meet at a regular basis. There's some actions that our attorney is looking into before meeting again, but we are assembled and we are working on it. So just to let everyone know that those activities are ongoing. But just a point of order, do we usually take an approval action on the appointments, just for the record?
It's under the deliberations.
Oh, it is?
Mhm.
I didn't see
Yep.
it.
Yep,
Okay.
it's on there. Any questions on the Superintendent's Contract Committee? No?
Thanks for the update.
Yeah, thank you. Facilities update.
Then that fancy spreadsheet that we shared last month of all the projects SAU-wide is that the next important step is to have the board resolution authorizing moving forward with the municipal bond bank. So we have a similar resolution when we move forward with the lease agreement as we do here, but this one is for the bond. So it's in the agenda packet and it will be part of the minutes. And it's provided to us from our bond counsel. Okay.
That will be also discussed in our deliberation section as well. Comments on facilities? No? Okay, strategic plan update.
Okay, so included in the packet was the update to the strategic plan. So our strategic plan that we have in place that we haven't seen an update and it's a little bit expired at this point is really solid and in good shape in terms of the goals. The action steps and the objectives within them are changing over time. And while the entire plan hasn't been brought forward for renewal, every year we review the goals and objectives and create our district and SAU goals according to our strategic plan, and we move forward and focus all of our efforts in that area. So if you take a look at present SAU goal number 1, SAU 41 will strive to continuously improve each student's level of achievement and growth. We have continued to do this. We're ensuring that our curriculum and instruction and assessment are designed and delivered to enable diverse learners to achieve or exceed Hollis grade level standards. And we're doing so across all curricular areas K to 6. And when we go into the discussion of the curriculum later and the curriculum work that's been completed, this goal here was the focus of that work this year. Our present SAU goal 4, we are suggesting that it becomes priority area number 2 to ensure curriculum is delivered in accordance with diverse needs of the learning community and meet the standards for 21st century learner. So we're taking a look at all of our initial initiatives, our 21st century learning frameworks, and providing instructional tools and experiences to create learners ready for what's to come, essentially. That part of that is taking a look at our data, analyzing it, making appropriate adjustments to both the day-to-day lessons, but also big picture planning in making adjustments to our living document, which is the curriculum. Our SAU goal number 2 is that we will recruit, recognize, and develop the most effective personnel. And in order to do that, we have 2 pieces of this, and that's the Professional Growth Master Plan. And this is a plan that is a 5-year plan. It is approved by all of our collective bargaining units, and it's also then after that approved at the state level. So this year we're in year 5, so we are going through page by page our evaluation system, our professional development opportunities and offerings, our goals and objectives. we're redefining what is an effective learner in today's terminology, and we're reaching the close of all that work this year. And we're looking to, in June, put it before our 6 unions for approval, and then the state as well. So all of that is in line with developing the most effective personnel. And then in terms of recruiting and recognizing, of course, a lot of this work is on the part of the board to make sure that our collective bargaining agreement is, our agreements are written in a way that we can recruit and retain exactly who we want to have here in Hollis. Forward. New goal number 4, community relations goal for SAU. So SAU 41 will continue to foster a strong relationship with the community to foster support for school district programs, budgets, and initiatives, and really to create and maintain a two-way communication among all stakeholders within the district. So our compliance and communication position that was approved by the voters at the SAU level will be of assistance as we work to streamline our communications, not directly tied to this goal, but something that we did just implement was pickup patrol, which is another way for parent pickup patrol.
It's fantastic.
Which is another way for
I'm so
parents
happy.
to quickly get information to our staff about a change in dismissal, and maybe picking up a child early or an absence. So it's information that goes quickly to the office without worrying about what's the number. It's via an app, so you don't have to remember the phone number or the email. It's just quick information that goes right to the source so that we're not, thinking that a student is going on the bus and they're not. And so it's really streamlining that ability to communicate 2 ways.
No more pieces of paper, to send a note in the morning, or if something changes during the day, it's very easy
So
to do.
the green notepads go into a time capsule.
Yes.
We can still utilize the green note, it's for whatever way works best for the family, but this certainly has streamlined the process and cut down on a ton of work from our office staff, and gets that information also to the classroom teacher, so definitely helpful.
Awesome.
Present SAU Goal 5, which is SAU 41 will manage and keep in good repair its physical assets in order to optimize student learning. The implementation goal is to provide adequate space in order to meet the educational needs of all students and the effective operations in all school facilities. So we absolutely have spent quite a bit of time and dedicated a ton of resources in updating the physical structures here and really bringing new life into buildings that were aging and adding years and years. The next piece of this is to identify if the space needs are adequate for our changing population, and to create and articulate space needs for pre-K to 6 to see if we have any needs as we're moving forward. Finally, a new SAU goal number 6, to provide students with the opportunity to participate in a rich variety of co-curricular activities, to be mentored by knowledgeable individuals, to learn the value of hard work, competition, team play, group work, individual effort, leadership, and to ensure each individual an enjoyable and rewarding educational experience. So pre-COVID, we started to move in the direction of some after-school activities, actually, and before-school activities. We started offering a number of, for the most part, parent pay activities such as drumming or graphic
Box.
design or box. And during COVID, we had to go away from that, but we'd like to bring that back because that offered so many opportunities for our students, not only to engage in an activity that was different, new, they can grow in those ways, but that also allowed them to create and foster a relationship with a trusted adult in the building. And that goes beyond just the drumming activity. We have reinstituted box last year and this year, and that is great. We're going to continue to do that, and that's build our kids' success. And it's a physical activity program designed to get kids active, but also to establish a lifelong commitment to health and fitness. It's not just about health and fitness. It's about getting that energy out in a healthy way prior to school so that the students are ready to learn while they're here with our seat time. It also promotes social emotional learning to give students better tools to handle stress, to handle peer interactions, and to manage potential negative feelings. Gives them a lot of confidence. So those have been really successful, and we're really just looking to expand those offerings. So that's the work that we've been doing without putting it on paper for the past couple years. And as we're, more time is made available to us, then you'll see this in a more formal format.
I'd love to advocate for I love that last goal. And in my experience coaching the running club, when I had student volunteers from the high school come and mentor the kids, it was far more impactful than, I'm amazing, but far more impactful than anytime I was the leader. So any opportunities we can also forge more bonds with older students, mentoring kids in programs, because I mean they can be experts in these areas too, and I think it's really amazing, and kids respond really well to older students.
Absolutely. We had a great experience with grade 3 going to Physics Day and participating, and then we went away with that with COVID. We'd like to bring that back. That was great. Students, our third graders, went from station to station where our seniors, or our physics students, I should say, some of them are juniors, did the instruction in small groups of various components of Trebuchet Day. We also had rock band, if you remember that, and that was just a fabulous experience. Anything like that is certainly very positive. I will say that another thing that was just put into place in our art teacher down at HPS over April break is we have a brand new interactive flat panel board, which doesn't sound very exciting, but smart boards and Eno boards are sort of done. And now we have interactive flat panel boards, which look like a TV screen, but it's interactive and you can manipulate it. You don't have to be connected to your computer. You log on to the board. Multiple students can go up and utilize that touch feature at the same time rather than only one touch point like on a smart board. This new technology also has the ability to, for a science lesson, if a teacher wants to demonstrate how or what if we're looking at something small, how, this is what we're looking for, they can screencast up to the board, and so then everyone can see that smaller item. Students who are working on, this was installed at CSDA a couple months earlier, and so Greg Snoke, a 6th grade teacher there, was just playing around with some different features. So they were doing word building in Greek and Latin, and then different students created different words, and they cast their screen up. So you could see 4 different students work at the same time, and then they're talking about the words that they created based on the different components. So just taking learning to the next level. But another piece of this is its ability to, not that we want to go back to Zoom and remote learning, but bring those physics students into the classroom prior to the day that they're out on the field. And so you can do a little bit of that pre-teaching ahead of time and bring maybe those Spanish students into the Spanish class at Hughes to really foster a lot without having to worry about transportation and what class are we in.
That's huge.
And so just opening the door for the classroom isn't just in this wall, it's beyond that. So we're excited about some new things that we're doing, and we are slated to this year. Hollis was granted a REAP grant, the Rural Education Grant, and Hollis.
What grant?
REAP, it's Rural Education Grant. Hollis typically does not qualify for it every 5 years or so. Yep, and it's for a number of things, but one of it is for technology. So we are utilizing those funds to add boards to our classrooms over the summer. Well, if they're on back order, whenever they arrive, we're going to add them. So we have one slated per grade level, so we can expose all the students to this new technology.
This technology you're describing, one of the, I'm just listening to you and trying to visualize what you're describing, and 2 things come to mind that are sort of opposite of each other. So often school can be, especially at a high-performing school district like SAU 41, can be an exercise in abstract thinking and verbal understanding. And at the same time, so many students are tactile learners. They can be very, very ambitious students. They can be kids who are on special education plans, et cetera, but they need to be on their feet and using their bodies to learn best. So on the one hand, that sounds spectacular for a kind of kid that often is asked to sit down and listen, which is not that necessarily that child's best way of learning. So that's exciting. On the other hand, I can just picture the high-speed kids making the scene you just described go too fast for someone like me. And so I hope that in the excitement, the children who process slower, who have plenty to contribute, are kept in mind so that the toy doesn't become the vehicle for the pacing.
No, absolutely. We're very careful about how we move forward. And as I mentioned, we have one of these boards in each of our districts, and those teachers are our sort of pilot teachers. We said, you can have this, but you're going to have to train everybody. So they're figuring everything out and then putting together the best practices for moving forward and what seems to be most effective. And in November, when we have our November professional development, where teachers learn from teachers, we're going to be offering those sessions where we can learn and see what's best for the visual learner, what's best for that learner that needs to move around.
Gina, may I ask one more question?
Sure.
So you're kind of talking about the different activities that were missed during COVID times, and obviously the children have continued to move forward in their school years. Are there any considerations or conversations around makeup stuff for those kids who missed those? So the third graders who didn't get the opportunity to participate in Physics Day, is there an opportunity for them to participate in it as fourth and fifth graders now, for instance?
So when we talk about it as third graders, we do that because it's part of the spiral curriculum. So they're covering the same content that those physics
Gotcha.
students are covering. So it's a great experience, but it also is
Serves a
tied to what they're
purpose.
doing. It's very purposeful. We talk about the students that didn't get to go to DC, and what are they going to do? And unfortunately, some of these we just can't recreate it for everybody.
Yeah, that was not a pressure question. It was truly just wondering how those conversations have gone, because it was a miss for a lot of kids for a lot of different things. So I'd love to see if it's possible to make up what we can, I guess is a way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Yep.
Ask a very dumb question about the document itself now that you've completed it. What are the colors for? There's highlights and there's colors, and I was never totally clear, and because I'm struggling to hear you from all the noise, I'm not clear how to understand the green highlight, the red, the blue fonts.
Mine is black and white.
Aha!
The priority area, the implementation goal is in red, but I'm not sure what the highlight would be for.
I
That's
think the
green or yellow.
highlights are the new items that were
Okay.
specifically added.
That makes sense. The only one that doesn't say new that's highlighted
Yep.
is under present SAU goal 2. Underneath it, the implementation is highlighted.
Right.
Everything else is highlighted and says new, so that must just be a new implementation.
So the implementation goals are new from the original strategic plan. We didn't have the implementation portion. But like I said, we've been working on this internally every year. We didn't step away from it. But if Andy has added an implementation goal based on this year's experience, then he's specifically identified it as new.
And how can you generally describe how you assess your own performance? How do we assess your performance at the end of whatever period you feel is an appropriate period, say a school year or an era?
So you're right. I mean, I think before this becomes a completed strategic plan, you have to have some metrics to be able to evaluate it. And those aren't here yet.
Oh, no, I'm not asking for an evaluation yet. I'm just curious, as a general statement, how do you approach self-assessment? How do you approach the district's performance against these objectives and goals?
And some of them are easier to assess than
Sure,
others,
sure.
right? We're moving forward. We have a supportive community with our collective bargaining agreements. We come to an agreement and we're able to recruit staff. That tells me that we're successful in that area. In terms of the building projects, we've been very successful in supporting the updates to capital improvement and energy efficiencies. So those are metrics there. that I would say demonstrate that we're moving forward in a positive way.
And what is the board's role?
So I think the board's role is to.
I mean, in terms of, I know, know what the board's role is. What is the board's role as far as you're talking to us today from the administration's view? What is the board's role in participating in that, I'll call it assessment with a lowercase a. I'm not asking specifically for numbers, but
I think your role, well, I'll talk about a couple different aspects. So one piece is providing the feedback. So as we fine tune this, what do we need to shift? What do we need to place greater focus on? And then holding us accountable. So if there's a goal and we say we're going to work on it, you know, what data do you have to support the work that you've been doing? And sometimes, you know, a goal is not achievable for a variety of factors.
Sure.
But did you do everything possible to get us to that point?
So do we have a date in mind, even at a preliminary sensibility in the most general sense? I don't have my calendar out type of thing. I mean, at a certain point, a lot of times this kind of thing becomes an internal driver for work, and which is spectacular, that's what it's for, but we have a duty to the public and to our students. So, you know, I'd like the board to consider, is there an agenda, like a June agenda, a July agenda, where it's our role to do that looking back with you?
Sure. So I think we do, well, I don't think, we have been historically, not necessarily COVID years, but we have
ignore
been
that.
doing our goal presentation. So we work on our goals in our leadership retreat, and then we present them usually September, October.
right.
The most recent year, we did it as an SAU, in our October meeting, and then present the progress and where we stand at the end of the year. And I think to take the next step, if you feel there isn't enough data to support progress or appropriate level of progress, then hold us accountable and ask us, point us in a direction that you feel that we were lacking or we need more effort or more focus. So then we're giving you the feedback and then you give us feedback. To say, grade us.
Yeah, I'm not even thinking about it as good, bad, or ugly. I'm just thinking process, because I feel like if we don't formalize the board's role in the process on a cycle, whether it's annual, biannual, whatever is appropriate, then it can't be about rubber stamp, and it can't be about, oh, hindsight, we didn't talk about that, or it's only under discussion. I feel like, ignore the COVID years. I understand that COVID rolled a bowling ball through a lot of important processes because we had other priorities. But as we're getting back to normal here, the strategic plan was something that before I joined the board, when Rob was still in the thick of it, was a Herculean effort, and I think you remember that yourself. And I know that in the recent years, you and Andy have talked about publicly about wanting to, you know, reclaim it, renovate it, bring it back, bring it to current and future status. And the school boards have to have a role in that process. It can't just be about reports. It has to be something. I don't really have a specific idea sitting here. I read it thoroughly, wanted to understand, make sure the highlighting and all that, I understood what your goals were for the colors. But I also didn't see a specific objective, which is fine, for the board's participation in this work. And we have to have a role. And it has to be, I think, a formally structured one, where I like your idea that, you know, because of course a lot of this stuff requires, a lot of these things that you've discussed require digestion and synthesis over the summer, for example, once the school year's over. So while it sounds like it's delayed, it's only sensible. Just like the budget, we don't know until the audit in the fall, and sometimes even into the spring of the following year, you know, what the previous year's look back is. And so I can appreciate that if you're going to do an SAU or district by district presentation on what we've accomplished, what our new goals are, that's an appropriate time. Perhaps that's fine. I don't have an opinion in particular because I haven't thought about that information until just now. But I personally would have to want to see a specific and explicit role for the board.
And
Well,
you mean the Hollis Board, or
yeah.
you mean the
Each board.
SAU Governing Board?
Well, that's a good question, too. I just want to bring the subject up of our responsibilities in this process, that's all.
Well, when I was on the group that fashioned the first strategic plan, we were engaged at the goal level. So we were either assisting, well, we did some framework because we didn't have a framework then, but it was mainly focused around the goals and coming to a consensus of the goals and what they should be. I think it's important that we didn't engage in the implementation or the objectives, because that's how you get to the goal. And our role, at least at that point, was we were the compass. We were part of the conversation about the direction, and we left the rest of how to get there to the rest of the administration and our educational professionals. That does leave the question of monitoring and evaluating, which is in our wheelhouse. So that may need to be a discussion that continues.
Over time, yep.
And maybe there's participation there at the board level to be able to do that. That's not to say the goals that are presented here today are not, applicable.
I'm not challenging anything at all. I'm talking strictly process. I have no judgment at all.
Yeah, I would counsel that our role probably could be at the reviewing existing goals, maybe getting involved with any new goals and having discussions at that level, and maybe the monitoring and evaluation, not doing how to do that, but we need metrics of some sort to be able to do our monitoring and evaluating function.
It could be that all I'm asking for, really, fundamentally, all I want to know is that there's going to be an explicit, specific agenda item for this board. This is back to Brooke's question. I don't have an objection to the SAU level presentation of district-wide, although it kind of bugged me, but at the same time, I don't know why, so I just let it go. But I do think each district has its own responsibilities to its schools, and not I think, that's the case. And so I feel like, if you're going to do let's say that you decide, everyone decides, y'all decide that it's appropriate to repeat what you did this past fall at the SAU Governing Board level, one presentation to everyone. Perhaps the following agenda has a discussion item just pro forma every year, so that the process is in place, where we discuss the presentation that you did do and ask our questions, make our comments. It's not really a matter of trying to oversee like Rob was saying, the goals, the implementations, that's strictly the staff's responsibilities and wheelhouse, but we have a requirement to understand what you present and to stress test it to the degree that appropriate questions can be made, so that we carry out our responsibilities of oversight. So if all I hear is, we're planning to do the presentation in, let's say, October to the SAU Governing Board, then I'd like to be sure there's an agenda item in November that's under discussion, explicitly in response to that presentation. That would make me feel confident that the public knows there's a time we're going to discuss what you claimed.
Sure, and I think what makes sense, based on what Rob offered, is that would really talk about the objectives and how we're addressing them. And then in June, I think your responsibility is to say, this is the compass, you went this way.
Right.
And you did a lot of work, but it didn't really work toward that goal or whatever, and kind of bring us back.
Yeah, I think the game changer for us when we created it the first time was anything we do has to roll up to one of these things. And if you can't get there, you probably shouldn't be doing it. It's probably outside of the scope of the strategic plan. So we always looked at it as that's our North Star. And I think it was helpful from that standpoint, right? And then the objectives and implementation is really where the real work gets, makes it reality, right? So we have to leave that work to you folks.
Agreed.
So this time around, it was the administration that created the updates with the goals, that it wasn't any school board
Oh, no, this was the
members?
superintendent.
Okay, yeah, because I think that's the appropriate thing to have someone that's an expert in the field.
The bulk of it, the
Formulating
framework, is the original one that involved a much larger group
Uh-huh.
of stakeholders. But they still hold true as goals.
Okay,
It's just, amending them for 2022.
Yeah.
Well, let me jump on
And
Brooke's
that's how I
question.
view this. I view this as modification. We're not restructuring or anything.
To Brooke's question, though, if a board member has a concern with a stated goal or the wording or whatever, there's a role for bringing that up.
yeah,
Absolutely.
You can bring it up right now,
I
if you
don't
want,
like all those
if you so
questions.
desire.
I think they look great.
I'm sorry, because this is fundamental to the road plan going forward, and it's so nice to be able to get back to this. It's just tremendous to be able to get back to these fundamentals of what will we do going forward, aside from just managing, a medical emergency every day. The community also has a role in reading these documents and submitting comments to the board, to the administration, with any concerns and interests, because it is a living document, and it's a
Well, I think for 2 years, we've been in reactive mode.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've always said, boards always do their best work planning, and maybe not so great at reacting. We do what we can, probably not at the speed the community would like us to do, and we're reacting, but there's a lot to consider that maybe a lot of people don't appreciate or maybe don't have visibility to when we react. But planning is always a much better place, and that's, we're getting back there, and that's where we need to be.
Anything else on the strategic plan? Okay, moving on to the school calendar for 2022.
So that's this school year, and just an announcement that our last day of school is June 17th, and that's a half day, and lunch will not be served, so dismissal will be prior to lunch. The specific details on the time will be issued by the building, as there is staggered dismissal times.
So what you're saying is be prepared to feed your hungry children on the last day of school.
So we're going to offer breakfast too, and then that'll provide an opportunity for our kitchen staff to do the appropriate cleaning to prepare for the summer.
Rob, you have the right idea. That's a pizza lunch day. Ended on the right
Come over
note.
to the monument there and
That's right.
get your order in early.
The kids love the gills, though. You gotta.
Yeah.
All right, curriculum update.
Okay, so just give me one
Sure.
moment.
Purpose of the screen, right, Gina?
Yes.
That you don't even have to get
Are
up.
you gonna use the eyes in the back of your head?
No, I'm gonna turn around when it turns off. But I didn't want to whip myself around when it wasn't up yet. And Amy's gonna go blind. She's just
Anyway, I'll stand up if you want to, or you're just gonna, I'm gonna take the opportunity to stand from it.
That we have been in another COVID year and experienced a lot of challenges with that. We have continued to persevere, move forward, and do the great work that our teachers do. We always refer to curriculum as living documents, as they need to be responsive to needs of the time, but focused and centered on standards. And we have a cycle of review. So if you recall, a few years back, we really made some changes in STEM and added a lot of work in our sciences here in Hollis. We added environmental science, made that 1.0 down at HPS. So we've made it, our goals and our intentions and the curriculum work that we're doing has been moving forward. Whether or not we're talking about it publicly, is a different piece, but our budgets have been centered around all of our curricular desires and needs. We had implemented early release days this year and again for next year, and those times are critical 4 times a year for our teachers to take a look at, in the beginning of the year, our learning loss data from prior year, adjust curricular needs, and along the way, take a look at formative assessments, which are assessments along the way, whether it's just a quick question in class or a quiz or a conversation or an assessment of where our students are and where their needs are. And not only are we taking a look at the needs and then making an adjustment, we are reviewing our curriculum documents to see what are some enrichment activities that we can do. How do I provide a tier 2 instruction to really support maybe fractions where these students came forward and needed to solidify them a little bit. Even though we're moving forward, we're going to spiral through, we're going to engage that tier 2 instruction. So those 2-hour early release times were critical, both in addressing our student learning needs, but also to reflect and really dive into and dig into our curriculum needs. So thank you for giving us the time to do that. We certainly use the time wisely. What I wanted to show you is the evidence of that work. So here's our SAU 41 website. And up top, one of our drop-down menus is curriculum. And if you take a look at curriculum by course, nothing pops up, then you can focus on the building that you're interested in. So we can start by taking a look at Hughes. And within the Hughes folder, we have grade 4, 5, and 6, and then our specialists. So let's say I want to take a look at grade 5. I can take a look at grade 5 reading. And all of our grade 5 teachers and specialists work together to create this very thorough document. So these are the essential learning questions for Unit 1. And we're not going to talk about them all, but I just want to kind of walk you through. These are the questions we're asking when we are focusing on reading literature in grade 5. All of these questions. How does conflict lead to change? What characters do you relate to and why? What's the point of view? For historical fiction, in what ways may events in historical fiction connect to real history, fantasy, realistic fiction, etc. And then we take a look at our content objectives. So by the end of the unit, students should have a familiarity with the following. And so all of those bulleted items are specific content objectives for this unit. But as I mentioned, all of our work is tied to standards, and the standards are fairly consistent, don't change too often. And so we want to make sure that as our curriculum is a living document and might change from year to year, our standards remain the same. And we want to make sure that we're focused and geared towards meeting and achieving those standards. And those are, written by adults. So kids want to understand, what the heck am I doing? What am I learning here? And so we have student-friendly objectives and skills. So the students know what the objective is for the lessons. Teachers share those objectives with them ahead of time. And when I walk into classes, I often ask students, why are you doing this? What are you learning? And if they can tell me, that's great, because that tells me that the teacher has a very targeted lesson, the students understand why they're learning it, and then they can make connections from there. So like I said, these are bullets of those standards, just rewritten in a way that students and non-educators really understand. And then we have learning activities that support 21st century learning. So what activities are we doing in the classroom that help students meet those standards? So Home of the Brave, investigated and analyzing various themes and figurative language. The focus of that is critical thinking. We have some research ones. So although we're talking about a reading, we are researching and doing some interdisciplinary work. And enrichment and expanded opportunity. So opportunities based on who's in the class, who needs what. Do we need some enrichment? So there might be some more complex texts that are available. There might be whether you call it Newsella or News ELA, the ability to change the text complexity for nonfiction articles. So we have an article that all the students are reading, and then we can adjust just with a click of a button the complexity of the text to really allow all the students to participate in the same content discussion, but at a level that is accessible to them. Remediation and intervention activities. So we have Read 180, System 44, RTI, Wing. So maybe a student just needs a little bit of extra help, so they get that help in Wing time. As I mentioned, we can level the texts. We can also pre-teach vocabulary if we know that this next book has some vocabulary that might be a stumbling block or that all the students just most likely have not seen. We're going to pre-teach that vocabulary, so when we come across it in the literature, there's going to be the ability to understand the context of it. Utilizing graphic organizers to help synthesize and organize that information. And then resources. So this is a critical component. What books are my children reading? They're all present on the website for anyone to see.
Tina, can I interrupt you? Is all of this available on the website?
Yep, I showed you how to get to that on the
It's the
website.
curriculum
It's
tab.
not just you.
Correct. It's a publicly facing.
There's a curriculum tab, right?
Correct.
Yep.
I didn't say that into the mic.
It's a curriculum tab, yes. Brooke.
Curriculum tab, and then it was specifically, so you go to curriculum and then curriculum by course. So you can go kindergarten, ELA, you can go kindergarten music, or you can go to AP English language. It's all available there. And so then the resources, like I said, it's very specifically everything that we are going to work on. And we go through unit by unit. So I'm just going to switch to another. Let's go to, since we already did Hughes, let's go to HPS. And let's take a look at music, since I just mentioned music. So here we have singing. By the end of each unit, students will be able to sing with others, with teacher guidance, with 80% accuracy. So we have our content objectives, we have our standards, and then, what does that look like for our students? So students will sing with a steady beat. We will sing using loud and soft voices for kindergarten and first grade, and then for second and third, we're going to move to varied dynamic levels. And we're going to watch the conductor, and we're going to learn songs from different cultures. And so it might include all these options, enrichment activities, et cetera, and then resources may include, but not limited to, this Music K8, it's a book, Music Play Online, and Essential Elements Music Class. And then we move to drums, handheld instruments, et cetera. So all of this is available, and I realize you can't necessarily see it so well on this screen, but it's all available for anyone to peruse in their spare time. Let's take a look at grade 2. And we did reading before, so I'm going to go to social studies. Also, I will identify that we did a ton of work in writing. Halls and Brookline K6 together did all this work a few years back, and some have added their documents to this folder, and some have not yet fine-tuned them, but our work is continuing. But the focus this year was social studies and reading, just to make sure that all of our resources were up to date and current and accurate representation of what we're doing. All right, so now we're looking at social studies. So in grade 2, we're looking at communities. And what are different types of communities? How does my town work? How do I get involved in the community? How do communities grow and change? So there's content objectives, standards, student-friendly objectives, build a classroom community. So I think as students, you just know that you have a job in the classroom, but now we're very intentional about we are building a classroom community and we're tying it to social studies. So everyone plays a role. Your role is, you go get the lunches. And let me tell you, when I sub for lunch, that's a challenge to go get the lunches on the lunch cart. I definitely
That'll be
struggle with
going
that.
away.
Yeah, that great hallway.
It's a challenge.
Got a bunch of snacks.
But what is, and so that's part of community. It's part of social studies. It's a little bit of social emotional learning, but it's how to move forward as an effective participant, a contributor to a community. Meeting with community helpers. So we bring in Officer Cush. We bring in firefighters, and they're participating in this discussion. So you can see it's very appropriate for grade 2. Identifying different resources in New Hampshire. We also will tie in our nonfiction books. So our reading will play into our social studies lesson. Our morning read aloud will integrate the unit that we're working on in social studies. So they're not just chunked out. Now we're doing social studies, and now we're doing English, and then we're moving on to math. We pull them all together to make better connections. We have a pen pal project as an enrichment activity for grade 2. We have a number of others, but I just identified that one. Here are our books. I live in a town, I live in a city. Town mouse, country mouse. And the list goes on. Clothesline clues to jobs people do. Let me keep
Prize
going.
for sharing. I like that one.
Oh,
Not in
prize
my
for-
house.
I agree with that one, absolutely. And then we have some digital resources as well. So although we have our technology resources available, and I'll show you where that is also on the website, those talk about what our students, in HPS can use. But this tells you when are you going to use Scholastic Digital. You're going to use it here in this unit. So if you had a concern about utilizing Scholastic, you know that this is the unit that it's being integrated. All right, so I'm going to go back to our administration, and under information technology, we have SAU 41 district software list. So this is a list that is presented in our annual registration over July when that's sent out, and we ask parents to approve this list. I'm going to go through to show you, because some folks might not know the extent of it, but we have a couple different tabs here. Licensed software. So this is software that requires us to engage in a license, and if it's used in Brookline, Hollis, or Co-op, those are the different tabs over here. Let's see. Define STEM. So this is project-based learning solution that provides lessons built around careers, and so that is something that we have historically used 4 to 6 here at Hughes and at CSDA. If you'd like to learn more, there's the address right here. We also can take a look at the privacy policy and the terms of use. So every Thursday at 1 o'clock, the data governance team meets and we review any requests for technology approval for websites, for licensed software, free tools, curricular resources, et cetera. But as I mentioned, this is just a licensed software. Then you can click over to free tools. Sorry, it's a little bit wonky. And there are.
Excuse me, does licensed software mean we're paying for it?
Correct. Okay. Yeah. So here, for example, I mentioned Newsella or News ELA when I was talking about grade 5 reading. Yep, and so that is 3 to 6 in Hollis, and it's reading comprehension. They have a number of articles. There's the link. We have the privacy policy, and we have the terms of use. We also have a number of curricular resources. So students aren't interacting directly with these. I apologize, I don't know why it's blacking out. With these resources, but teachers might obtain resources from these sources. So storyboard that. It's digital storytelling. Our teachers might utilize that, K6 in Hollis, and then you can learn more information if you take a look at the link or, sorry, or the.
Now it's a rave.
Yeah. Privacy policy or the terms of use. And then we have Chrome extensions. So we have Chromebooks, grades 1 through.
Unplugs it and it works better. Imagine.
Worse.
EasyBib Toolbar, that's a great tool to help students create a bibliography. So those are Chrome extensions. So those are just little extensions on the top corner of the browser with the Chromebook. And then we have paid library databases. So if you want to know what we're utilizing in Hollis or any of our districts really, you can take a look at all of our paid library databases.
You say that some of these are paid ones, paid library?
These are paid library
So
databases. Licensed software
Can
is
kids
paid.
access these things through their student portal when they're at home? Is all of this accessible at home and at school, or is some of it just only accessible at school?
The paid library databases are accessible at home via their student account.
Yeah.
There's a tool that we have. Just
That's
Wait one
cool, they
second.
can access that paid library database.
Yep. There is a tool that has, some concerns have been raised about it recently. It's Epic, and we have access to it only during the school day. And so parents can have access to it beyond the school day if they buy a family subscription. But our students, their accounts are not active after the school day. So this is, it's not unlimited, 40,000 plus books, ebooks that can be instantly discovered, read, and shared with friends, and personalized for each individual reader. So this is another way that this was absolutely so critical during COVID because it allowed everybody to have access to the Classroom Read Aloud book without having to pick up a copy here. It allowed teachers to push books out to students knowing their lexile and their interest level. And now we can, within the classroom, take a grade 5 reading class and have students work together based on their similar interests or their similar lexiles, because we can push out those books to them, and then that they're based on our standards, but might be also based on their interests, and then they can work together as like a small reading group. So a lot of different ways we're utilizing these tools.
Reading them on, sorry, go ahead. I just was wondering what they're reading them on.
Oh, they're ebooks, so they're
They're-
reading them on their Chromebooks.
On their Chromebook, okay.
Yeah, they flip the pages. if you're reading a
And
book.
they can, for our younger readers or our emerging readers, they can read to the students. So if you have, in kindergarten, it's great because our students come to us, most of them not knowing how to read, and it allows them to access texts. Our emergent readers might participate in the same book club as a peer who can read independently, but they're not there yet, so it can read along and highlight the word as it moves along. We can also change the lexile of some text. So it really opens the door to provide access to either content or standards that we're trying to teach. So
I know that my kids really loved that when they were remote learning last year, and they were actually disappointed that they couldn't access Epic outside the school year this year. But it is a phenomenal tool. It's exactly everything that Gina just mentioned, and it lets the kids explore the different topics on their own. And again, it's just served to their level and maybe like slightly above to help them grow.
Sounds
really
like you're getting a
awesome.
family subscription now.
I know.
But another great thing is if we are in science class and we know that we're going to be researching biomes, let's say, the teacher can hand select a whole book collection and then put it out on Google Classroom. And so then the students now don't have to look through the whole library, but maybe can look through 20 resources or 10 resources. So it builds up that capacity to start researching and reading for learning rather than learning to read. So lots of
Question,
great.
are there any, how does this parallel with tactile books? I mean,
So we see our classroom collections. Some students prefer this. Some students prefer the book in the classroom. One difference, like I said, is our library might have one copy of this book, but now you have 4 students that really want to read it, and now we can read it together and engage in the Q&A that goes along with a book club, if you will.
I'm not a Luddite about this, I think it's spectacular, but at the same time, a lot of people do better with a physical object, who are much more concrete, the light things, eyesight things, whatever. So we're not moving toward this away from printed books.
No, we are
necessarily.
not. And so we'll still have our classroom books that we're reading where the entire class is reading the book or our classroom read aloud and you're following along on the paper copy. This is more that extra reading or you finished your work and so now you're reading a book.
Or research or things like that.
Or research, yeah,
right?
absolutely. An additional tool.
Huge for the Bion project.
Just to update you on all the work that our teachers have been engaged in all year long. It's not ending. We still have more work to do, but they have been working very diligently, and we're reviewing and giving feedback, and then they're making amendments. And so this is just, I'm in awe of how much we've been able to accomplish this year. And, you know, we have our teachers to thank for all of that, their hard work and dedication, and it shows.
And our IT people too, it's amazing.
Yeah, and Gina, I just wanted to provide the feedback that I really appreciated you walking us through how to find these things on the website, and that I think ultimately the responsibilities with each of us as community members to like figure that out, but I'm wondering if there's more ways to communicate all the resources that are on the website in a way that more people will utilize and be aware. I'm just putting that.
Is this something the principals are putting out directly to families, I assume? Or the teachers directly to families?
And I'm not looking to put more work. It just occurred to me that I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was there. That's so
Exactly.
awesome.
That's
I wish I
exactly
had. I wish I had already known.
Yeah, we can absolutely put it out there. The reason I'm hesitating is our website hosted company was just bought out, and so it's going to look different.
Okay. Yeah, pump the brakes on that. But it's great,
that's
and
coming
I
any day
appreciated
now,
you
but-
walking us through
Absolutely.
it.
But I
And
think
it's
that's a
and
great
it's broadcast to anyone that wants to know how to do it. now.
Yes, and I think that's a great opening of school activity because that's
Right.
when you're getting at the upper levels, you're getting the course expectation sheet and the syllabus, and so this gives you more in-depth information than a syllabi might offer.
Yeah,
So
terrific.
it's great. Thank you, Gina. You're welcome. Thanks, Gina.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the SAU Compliance and Communications position update.
Okay, so the update is that the position was posted, and it's been posted for maybe 2 weeks, and we have some applicants. And when Superintendent Corey returns from his well-deserved vacation, we're going to move forward with the process of completing interviews and making a selection.
Great.
Have you had good candidates?
We do,
Excellent.
absolutely.
Such a weird hiring environment. It's not automatically assumed that.
I agree.
Exciting.
Okay, moving on to deliberations. To see what action the board will take regarding the superintendent's recommendation regarding administrative recommendations and non-union personnel.
Hey, you want to do it? You got it. You're there. Go.
That's fine. Hold on, I was making sure I had the right ones. I'd like to move that we approve the appointments, nope, just kidding. That we approve the superintendent's recommendations regarding administrative and non-union personnel. Just kidding.
Second.
Think up there.
Is there any discussion, any further discussion? Nope.
Good choices. That's all.
Okay. All in favor? 500. Excellent. Okay. The next action item is relating to the committee appointments. May I have a motion?
I move to approve the appointments by the chair as stated.
Second.
Excellent. Any discussion?
I think they're great appointments. I think we're utilizing all the talents
Talents,
on
yeah.
the board where it needs to be, so this is terrific.
Great.
Appreciate the work.
I appreciate everyone's willingness to take on these additional commitments.
Yep.
All in favor? 500. The next motion is relating to the bond obligation. The details of which were provided in the agenda and are also in our script. So I'm not going to read that out loud.
I move that the resolution entitled Resolution to Authorize $3,116,000 General Obligation Bond for School Renovation Project be approved in form presented to this meeting, and that an attested copy of said resolution be included with the minutes of this meeting.
Second.
We don't actually have to. It's not, we're not under obligation to actually read it into the.
We don't have to read it.
great.
It will be in the minutes, but we don't have to read it. Is there any?
I just would like to put it on the record that this bond is exactly what was in the warrant.
Yep.
As presented to the public. It's the specific amount, it's for the explicit purpose, and the planning for executing these plans through the committee is going apace properly for HCAP, so.
Great. All in favor of this resolution? 500. I believe that's it.
One more motion.
One more motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor? Okay, so we are adjourned at 8:03.
Thanks, everybody.